What's going on, guys? So in front of me, you are looking at a bunch of accessories, a bunch of upgrades. And why do we have these here? What are these all about? And is this going to apply to the folks who watch my channel? Hang tight, I'll be right back. Okay, so I think you all know by now that my channel focuses primarily on towable RVs, travel trailers, and fifth wheels. And you know, when it comes to what most people buy if you get into RVs, travel trailer and fifth wheel sales definitely are the predominant type of RVs that are on the road. When it comes to popularity of different types of RVs, right behind those would be Class C RVs. A Class C RV is essentially a motorhome with a bunk or a bed on top of the cab area, an overhang area. And those are incredibly popular, mainly because they tend to be relatively affordable. You can definitely get great deals on them in the pre-owned market, and they accommodate a ton of people as well as a lot of flexibility for different types of camping. You can get them in tons of different configurations, from some that are super small, some people might call them like a Class B+. You can get them incredibly large, like Super Cs, which are essentially like diesel-powered versions of Class Cs, or you can get them in the most common configuration, which is going to be between about 25 feet and 33 feet long. That's going to be a very popular option, typically riding on a Ford E350, E450 chassis or a Chevy 3500 chassis. And they're very popular. People love them. Again, you can take a ton of people out. There's a lot of options when it comes to camping in those types of RVs, especially considering folks who want to get into a motorized unit and not necessarily one that you have to tow behind a pickup truck. Because if you don't have a pickup truck or you don't want a pickup truck, it's really the only other option unless you go to like a Class A pusher style, which is going to have a flat front to it. But again, why am I talking about this? I predominantly do towable units. However, you guys know that probably about 5% of my content revolves around motorized units, whether it's Class A's, Class B's, or Class C's. Now, Class C units, being as popular as they are, definitely have a huge place in the RVing community because, again, there's probably more of those on the road than any other type besides travel trailers and fifth wheels. When you look at all the accessories here, these are going to be to equip a new Class C that will make a presence on my channel. Now, nobody's giving me this RV, I'm not renting this RV, and I'm not borrowing this RV. This is actually my dad's new RV. So if you've watched my channel for a while, you've kind of seen their progression through RVs. They've had a ton of them. About 10 years ago, their first RV after a long hiatus of RVing was a Class A. It was a diesel pusher. They had some issues with it, with the diesel tank and the fact that the previous owner had it sitting for a long time, so they rebuilt the entire diesel tank because it was so far gone. And then after that, they had a Class C Concorde, which was a pretty dang long. It was like 32 foot, 33 foot long Class C. And then they got a Class B Pleasureway, which was built off of a Ford E350 chassis. It was a single rear wheel truck though, or van equipped option though, and it had some stability issues, even though from a fit and finish perspective, it was pretty dang awesome. Then they went to a Winnebago off of a Mercedes chassis, and that thing was super cool, but they never really cared for the sleeping configuration in that unit because it had this almost like smaller than a full-size bed slash sofa that would fold out. So they ended up actually buying a Flagstaff to tow behind it, a small little tiny towable travel trailer that was essentially a king-size bed with a bathroom and a full kitchen actually, but it was only like 16 feet long. And they towed it behind their Winnebago just so they would have better sleeping accommodations. And it worked out for them until there was a fire in the storage facility that they had the RV, and smoke filled their unit, and it did irreparable damage to the interior and some exterior components of that unit. So they ended up selling the Winnebago, keeping the Flagstaff, but then realizing that they didn't really have a tow vehicle for the Flagstaff, and it was so small and so compact, if they didn't have something to tow it with, it wasn't practical for them. So they sat with that unit for a long time, didn't know what to do with it, until they inevitably decided they needed to get into a motorhome again. They searched and searched and searched. He wanted to get a pre-owned unit. He did not want to spend over $100,000 on an RV. So they found a really cool, relatively affordable Class C off of an I think it's an E450 chassis. And all I'm going to tell you at this point is that it is a Thor motorhome. This specific one is actually reviewed really well. It's definitely among their higher end normal C class RVs, if that makes sense. So it's not going to be an RV that probably had an MSRP over 150,000, I don't believe, but it's definitely one that is not their entry level. So it has like nicer countertops. It's real like Korean material. It's not laminated. It's got a nicer finish to it. It's got some components that you typically wouldn't get on the $70,000, $80,000 Class C motorhomes that you typically see. But all that said, this was a great option for them because it gives them the floor plan they're looking for. Now, I'm not going to show you the RV yet because it's actually still getting PDI'd at the facility that sold it to him. But once we get that here, we wanted to be able to equip it with some things that would make their traveling experience a little better. So their vehicle that they're going to be towing behind it as their towed vehicle is going to be a 2021 Ford Escape Hybrid, plug-in hybrid. And it is flat towable, which is really nice, but they needed the components to be able to do that. So we have those components here, which we will install. We will do a full video installing all of it. What's really cool about this, and I didn't even know this, is that my channel sponsor, ETrailer.com, actually has their own tow bar assembly and tow kit. So you don't have to go with some of the other brands if you don't want to. And what's nice about ETrailer's specific setup here is that it comes with everything you need, at least from what I'm aware. I've never installed a tow bar and a tow setup on a towed vehicle before. So from what they told me when we were looking at other brands that they carry, like Roadmaster and Blue Ox, really good, very reputable brands, but you had to buy all sorts of different components to piece it together to make it work. But with the ETrailer version of it, it all comes as one big kit, and apparently you don't have to order all sorts of different separate parts to make it work, which is really cool. I still think you need the vehicle side of it, and I still believe you need the towing side of it, but again, the way they piece it together makes it a lot more convenient if this is something that you're looking for. And the quality they put into the products that they carry and they put their name on is absolutely impeccable. Aside from that, he wanted these rock tamers because he was concerned, of course, anytime you're towing something behind anything, you have the possibility of rocks slinging up from your tire and hitting it, whether it's a boat, whether it's a travel trailer, whether it's a motorhome that's pulling a towed vehicle. So these are called rock tamers. It's a mud flap system. What's really cool is the fact that it actually goes over the rear receiver of the RV, and it is super easy to install. So that's going to be a really interesting upgrade. I'm actually excited to see how that installs. It looks like it's going to be a pretty simple install. In this box is the camera system. So the RV currently has, I believe, a backup camera on it, but it does not have the side cameras. So this is a full camera system that will go around the unit. I believe it consists of 3 cameras, one on each side and one on the back, with a new screen that will go up front, possibly a way to interface it with the screen that's currently in there, but we'll find out. But that's the full camera system that's going to go on there. Over here is a black tank flush. We didn't end up needing that because his RV has a black tank flush on it, but if you needed to add one, this is actually pretty dang cool. It's called a Tornado, and it's the only rotary tank rinser. So you essentially attach it to the side of your tank, you plug your hose into it, and it sprays water really fast. I think there's other versions of this or other flavors of that, but this is definitely a popular one. He has some magnetic lights right here, which can go on the back of the towed vehicle so he can actuate brake lights and turn signals. But the way we are planning on installing this is to go ahead and integrate it directly into the vehicle itself. And the brake control system, which on the vehicle, which is pretty cool, I've learned a lot about this, and how it actuates the brakes on the Ford automatically, is going to be really cool. And that's also going to give him the ability to use the brake lights and turn signals on the Escape versus having to have the magnetic setup. But that could be kind of a temporary thing. But yeah, this is what we have. We have some mud flaps right here, which are going to be cool. And behind this box, we have Sumo Springs. So Sumo Springs is a product from Super Springs, and these are going to go on the RV's front and rear suspension to be able to help really help dampen some of the load. So whenever you go over bumps and you have a motorhome, the back can really hop a lot. There are super expensive upgrades you can do. There's things like liquid springs and all sorts of really high-end things, but this one is a relatively affordable, super easy to install setup that he can put on the back of his motorhome and on the front of his motorhome to help provide some dampening, to help control some of the movement, and provide some anti-sag control in case he's going to have a lot of stuff inside of his motorhome. So that's going to be really cool. But this right here is kind of a start. There's about 5 or 6 additional things on top of this that we'll eventually put on the motorhome. We'll do a full walk around tour of the motorhome. We'll do a full walk around tour of their new motorhome, or their new to them motorhome, show you why they specifically went with that floor plan, what other units they looked at, and why they felt the quality, the floor plan itself, as well as the features and amenities made it the right choice for them. Because they were looking in that $80,000 to $90,000 price point, considering the fact that the dealership was going to give them about $15,000 trade for their Flagstaff. So I guess when everything is said and done, they were probably looking more in like the $65,000 to $70,000 price range. And in that price range, there are tons of RVs available. Pre-owned units, new Class Cs, pre-owned Class Bs. There are tons and tons of RVs that are available, motorhomes, in that price point. And they went through a lot of them. I mean, they scoured the state, they scoured the country, and they ended up looking at this specific one, getting this specific one for a lot of interesting reasons, which we will talk about in future videos. But if this is all interesting to you, if you want to see what they ended up going with, if you want to see the interior tour, plus the installation of all sorts of really great upgrades, definitely take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.